welcome, and thank you for being here with us in the Mindful session. Today, I have an amazing guest. Her name is Vicky Poole. She is an ancestral healer, coach, author, and speaker. She battled through mental and physical abuse as a child, suffered the power of other people perception. She put it at poop until she was in her late 20s. Vic has come face to face with suicide twice and came through the other side. Once Vic became a mom, she caught herself acting like her parents with her son and went about making changes to herself that would impact her future generation. Ancestral healing then became a significant part of her practice, and she works with other parents to make conscious choices in their life to create the future that they really want. Working through her company, Vicky Poole Coaching, she is thrilled to have been invited to be a regular contributor to Sebela, a publication from May 20th to April 21st. A proud Kogi lass from Newcastle, UK, Vicky now lived in Reading with her family and her lovely furry babies. I am so happy and blessed to be here today with you and to have this amazing guest. Vicky Poole, please join us.
Hello, Barke. Thank you for having me here. And you might even get to see one of my fur babies. They're around my feet at the moment.
Yes, I'm glad to see them as well. Can you tell us how is Vicky when she was a child?
Oh, wow. So Vicky as a child, I was always very conscious of how I was turned out. So I always had to be immaculate because if I was anything other than pristine, I would bring shame to my family. I was always very conscious of what was being said and how I said things to other people because an event that happened when I was 5 or 6, I think it was more like 5. So I became like very, very quiet and withdrawn. I had almost no friends throughout my primary school years. And it was only really when I hit secondary school that I actually started to find other people that were very similar to me, as in who had battled with poop, the power of other people's perceptions. And together we kind of muddled our way through our teens. And then we kind of went off and went our separate ways.
Wow. Are you the only child in your family?
I am the only child. My parents tried for children for a great many years, and my mum was 39 when she had me, and my dad was 43. So I had quite old parents by the
Wow.
standards in the 80s.
Do you believe that because of the way they were at the time, that they actually, brought you up in a place that it wasn't healthy for you or it's not even, you know, good for you at that time?
My parents brought me up in exactly the same way that they had brought them, or their parents had brought them up. Because as parents, that's all that you know how to do. And in the 80s, there was very little research to say that certain styles of parenting were bad. That hitting children was bad. None of this had really started to come out. It might have been some introductory studies that were done by people at universities, but nothing was ever definitive that was available. My parents, I fully believe, brought me up in the best way that they knew how to. Looking back, I would have liked a different childhood, but there again, I think that's something that every child would like to say about their upbringing. There's always going to be something that we don't like about our upbringing.
That's very true, Vicky. That's very true. And can you, because you growing up and you are tomboy, you are very, how are your relationship in a way that was it hard for you to make friends? And if you do make friends, how was that, interaction with your family and yourself?
Mm, great question. So I was the only girl on the street. I was surrounded by boys. So of course I did all the boy things. So we would go out and play hide and seek. We play cops and robbers, with cowboys and Indians, all the usual stuff that boys do. And I was allowed to play cricket. I was allowed to play basketball. But the very second a football came out, I got whisked indoors. I was, no, you can't play football. Only lesbians play football, and you're not allowed to be a lesbian. And in my mind, I was like, very, very young. I was like under the age of 7. And I was thinking, I really want to go and play football with my friends. And yet, if I do that, then I'm going to be a lesbian. But it's shameful to be a lesbian. But I want to do it. So does that make me like a boy in a girl's body? And I was very young at the time I had this thought process. And what I took from that was that I had body dysmorphia. I was a boy in a girl's body. And how that affected me and how that showed up was I became a lot more masculine. I developed masculine mannerisms. I used to wear my hair really tight back so that it looked as though I had short hair, like the boys did. I wasn't really interested in hanging out with any of the girls who had dolls and makeup and earrings. I didn't want to do those things. And yet every single time a football appeared with my friends in the street, I was whisked indoors to needlework, sewing, crocheting, playing the piano, cooking or cleaning or something else that was a woman's job that I needed practice of doing. And what ended up happening was that it forced a wedge between what my parents, my mum and my grandma thought I should be because of the bits between my legs and what I wanted. And then as I grew up, I was quite close to my folks, and then this happened, and I kind of, I went one way, and my family expected me to go on a very different route. So they had this wonderful idea and a perception of a child, a daughter, that they held in their arms and everything I was going to be. And then I turned out to be something very different.
Yes, it is very different. Tell us about your education as well. When you wanted to, choose your own topic of, to go to university, how did that affect with your parents' decision?
Oh, wow. So I started having conversations about what I was gonna do after school quite early on. So when I was 16, I got a summer job at just a retail outlet in the local mall, and it was always the summer job. It was a temporary job, but I was working to fund my education, and my parents supported me as I funded my education. And in the UK, we've got GCSEs, which we have at 16, and then we go to A levels, which takes you to 18, and then over to university. Well, I really wanted to do biomedical sciences when I was like 12. And as I studied that and got a bit closer to it, I was really drawn towards the sea and got really, I fell in love with David Attenborough. How dare he not leave his wife? And I really wanted to go down that route of marine biology. I thought that would be a wonderful, wonderful mix until I told my parents. Now, where I grew up in Newcastle, it was the nice end of a poor part of the town. Everywhere you went was always about, how much money you were making, and you always had to have like the nice stuff. So you'd always have like your household clothes and then your going out clothes. Your going out clothes are always like the pristine way that you'd wear like once or twice or just on special occasions, or Sunday wear if you were. So it's everything about perception. So when I said about marine biology, there was no money in that. Do maths at university, become an accountant. You'll make lots of money. I never had an opinion about that. I hated accountancy. In fact, I did it at university and I failed it. I failed my first module and then deferred to maths full time. It never even was discussed. It was you're not doing marine biology. Nah, not happening. You can do biology as like an A level, as a GCSE, but the second you move over to university, my opinion, my value, it just didn't count towards anything. So I went off and I did an applied mathematics degree from UMass, which is University of Manchester now. Yeah.
And then you became mathematics. You got your degree on that. Now, being as a young child, not able to express yourself or not even feeling that you are allowed to express yourself because you have to do whatever it takes to make your parents, the people that you love, you know, show them that you love them by acting and doing what they want you to do. How is that affected you after when you start growing up and having and being your own, you know, woman? How is that came to it?
Oh, wow. How long have you got, Barke? I could talk about this for hours. It's a bit like letting the dog off the leash when you take it for a walk. So I went to university and so my first year I went to Newcastle University, and then I realized that I wasn't really having like the full university experience because I was still living at home. And whilst I could have moved into halls or moved in with friends from uni, I'd still be only a bus ride away from my parents, and I needed to get away. So I transferred down to Manchester Uni for years 2 and 3. And the second I moved into halls, like the halls of residence, I knew instantly that something was different. I was responsible for my own life. I could eat Pop-Tarts. Never allowed to eat Pop-Tarts before. I had the power to spend my grocery money on whatever I wanted. And I think I went a whole week with eating nothing but chocolate. It was brilliant. And what actually happened was that I slowly but surely, because there was no one there to enforce the boundary for me anymore, I flew off the rails. I would drink too much. I would party too much. I would stay up all night and then go to class and then write my notes on the receipts of the drinks. I mean, I went off the rails because there was nobody there to kind of like rein me back in. Now, other friends that I'd went to Manchester Uni with and that I'd known from when I was at school, they had little bits of freedom. They'd had that ability to go out on nights out. So that kind of initial splurge of freedom that I was now enjoying, they had already had in tidbits from the age of like 13, 14, 15. And I went through university. Thankfully, I was very naturally gifted at maths, and I didn't have to do too much studying to pass with a passable degree. And I then kind of, the next stage for me was leaving uni and going into the real world. Well, like most people who finish university, I went home. And then these boundaries were then put back in for me about what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And I very quickly ran away because I wanted that freedom that I've been enjoying for 2 years. So I got back in touch with my university partner. We'd only split for a few weeks, and we rented a place together, and we spent many happy years together. Now, looking back now, so it's 10 years ago since we split. Looking back, I was running from Newcastle. I was running from the restrictions that were enforced on me as a child and then as a young adult. And instead of running towards a loving relationship, I was running away from something. So I was always in a scarcity mindset. And with that scarcity mindset, it was always, if I don't do this, I have to go back. This needs to happen, otherwise I have to go back.
So
And
it's like
because
a
it's every,
consequences.
exactly right. And every time I pushed the boundaries with my parents, every time I shared with them what I was doing, they would always express their shame onto me. Can't believe you're doing that. What are you doing that for? And it drove the wedge further and further between us, to the point where I rarely spoke to either of my parents for many years. And it was only when I'd reached a point where I'd had my freedom. I'd had, the freedom to go skydiving, because I could. And I literally created a bucket list of all the things that I wanted to do. And then I ticked them off. And then I'm sitting there at 31 with my bucket list ticked off. I bought my own house. I bought a new car. I've gone skydiving. I've trekked across Egypt. I've done all the things that I wanted to do. And I'm sitting there and thinking, I'm on my own. This is the one thing that I haven't really been successful at. And when I started talking to my parents about that, they brought everything back to the boundaries that they had put in. So every time I even broached a conversation, it was the boundaries. And that's why I hadn't been successful at it. So in short, every step of freedom that I took, I got more confident in my own abilities. In the very second that I was unsure about something and I went back to what I knew, my parents, for support, they did their best to knock me down. And they only did that because that's what their programming told them to do.
It's true. And this is the thing about, as a human being, we don't realize it, especially when we were children, is that our own parents have been programmed in a certain way for them to be acting or doing things the way they do to us when we were children. But then what you've done is that running away from it, you've started building something for yourself. And through learning about yourself, you made mistakes. Yes, everyone else does. It's human nature, as would say. But then how did you get yourself to a point that saying, what, or, this is affecting me in this way? As you mentioned on your biography, when you met your son, and that's when you knew,
Yeah.
I need to do something about this. Can you tell us what exactly came up for you when you met your child? This little innocent bumble of joy, as they say.
My thought process was pretty much this. Oh my God, he's gorgeous. Did I make that? I'm so proud of myself. Oh God, now I'm mum. What if I'm my mum? I have to keep away from this thing. And I gave him to my husband.
You gave your son to your husband.
I was like, oh my God, let me do this again for you. Oh my God, did I make this thing? Oh my God, I love him so much. Oh, did I make this? Oh, wait, I'm mum. What if I turn into my mum? And I literally gave the baby to my husband.
What came up in your mind at that time? Because when you're pregnant, it didn't come up? What was your thought process?
No, when I was pregnant, it was the strangest thing. So I was a business development manager at a telecoms company, and my career was doing really well. I was the primary earner. I fell pregnant very shortly after I got married, and my husband and I immediately had the conversation about who was going to be primary carer. And his family setup is exactly the family setup that I wanted as a child. You live in and out of each other's pockets. You're really close. You can pick up the phone. You can chew the fat with anybody in the whole family. That's what I wanted. Because there is no judgment. People talk about everything and everything. There's no embarrassment. There's no shame. And I wanted that, and I still do want that for my son, my family. And I know that my family history isn't like that. My parenting style isn't like that. My experience isn't like that. So I had this overwhelming sense to, make sure that George, my baby, had that experience. And even when I was pregnant, it was all about, I'm the money maker. So I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to bring home the money and you feed it to the kids. That's how it's going to work. And that's what my husband and I signed up for. I didn't realize that by having a baby, because when you're pregnant, you just feel this little thing wriggling around inside you. You don't really hold it in the same way that you do a newborn. And it was in that moment that I held it that literally my world shifted on its axis, and all of a sudden it triggered so much in me. And people say that this happens. People say that, your world will pivot on your axis when you have a baby. And for many women it does, and for many others it doesn't. And I was adamant that I was going to be one of those women where it didn't impact my career.
So you hand your baby to your husband.
Yeah.
What happened next?
I slept. I had a very long labor. And when I woke up, the midwife was trying to latch my son to me to feed. And I knew that I was going to breastfeed because I'd been expressing colostrum for a while. And I couldn't quite get over this little thing actually wanted me. And it was he's not judging me. He wants something from me. Typical bloke. He wanted something from me, and only I could give it to him.
Yeah.
And, he fed for a good 15 minutes. And then my husband, sat there and he burped him and changed his nappy, and I went back to sleep. The first recollection that I have of me having one-on-one time with my son is probably about 2:00 the next morning. I slept for about 12 hours, intermittent wakes for feeding. And I wake up about 2:00 and I'm in the unit with the other women, and my baby's asleep next to me, and he's doing this with his hands. And I realized that he was looking for something, so I put my finger in it, and then I couldn't get it out. So my response to that was picking him up and putting him on my knee. So I had my knees up like this, and I had his head at the top, and he was sitting down, and he was looking at me, and he was holding on to my fingers. And it was, how can you not love this thing? How can you not love it? How can you not love him?
Wow.
And it doesn't matter whatever he is, whether or not he's a football player or a rugby player, whether he likes cricket, whether or not he likes girls or guys, it doesn't matter. How can you just not love him? And then I caught myself setting the expectation. Oh, he's going to be an England cricketer. He's going to be on the starting line for England, Six Nations, 2040. He's going to be this huge, immense guy. And then it was I'm setting my own expectations for my son. He is less than 24 hours old. He's less than 12 hours old. And I'm setting expectations on his life. And, fast forward a couple of months, and some of my girlfriends, who also were having babies at the same time, we were at a park, and they were doing the whole mum up one ship. Oh, I got my baby this. It was brand new. Oh, well, I got my baby X. He loves it so. And we came around in a circle, and there was 6 of us. And they came to me, and I said, I got my baby some stuff from Oxfam, and he's happy. And he was happy. And I felt so proud that I, supported a charity. I bought from charity. And this is something that my mum had did with me. I don't think any of my clothes were brand new. And even though I'd set out never to become my mum, never to become my dad, never to become my parenting experience, I still find myself doing the best of it. So I don't now have expectations for my son. He has complete freedom. He sets his own pace. And that for me is exactly what I wanted as a child. I wanted freedom. I'm not going to make him wait until he's in his late teens, early 20s to express freedom. And that for me is so powerful.
It is. And you learning everything about yourself, about your parenthood, about your parents, and seeing the difference of that. What's changed for you in becoming who you are today? What decisions did you stand up for yourself or even for your own beliefs? What would that be?
Wow. Well, for me, one of the biggest decisions that I made was the acronym POOP, the power of other people's perceptions, can't speak. Because when I remember that what you think of me is just poop, if I give power to what you think of me, it's poop. The only opinion that ever really matters is my own. And I read a book, it's called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, and it's about how you communicate with others. And he says in there that the only opinion that you're ever responsible for is your own. And I thought, oh my God, so if Marshall thinks that the poop is right, then who am I to doubt it? Who am I to challenge it? And as I started to go out and believe that what I was doing was right, I then attracted so many other people who are also on similar paths, parenting style, as I am. And we share ideas, we share content, we talk about what our kids are doing, and we also share about what works for us and what works for them. And in thinking that I was doing this all alone, it looked like this insurmountable object that I had to climb. I felt like I was climbing Kilimanjaro with like no equipment and no support, not even a map. And then before I'd even taken 10 paces, I'm actually in a group of other like-minded people. They've got maps, they've got more experience, they've got kids at different ages, they've got boys and girls. And I'm actually finding that I'm not so abnormal. There are a lot of other parents, mums and dads that are just like me, who want to make a difference. And we do it together. And I think that's beautiful.
I feel you, Vicky, and I understand. But end of the day, you changing yourself and work on yourself, be stronger for yourself and for your son and for your family. But then you also have dreams and ambitions and things that you want to do in your life. Can you tell us a bit, what actually, where you come from, where things were so hard, too much restriction, too much things that you cannot be really open to who you are as a person. But then now, as a grown-up, you've done that, you've dealt with it. Now you actually wanting to be and doing things still for yourself, because even though you're becoming a parent, you still have dreams, you still have things you want to do. Can you tell us a bit of your goals? What is that big project that you've got you want to share with all of us today?
Oh yeah, of course. So my life's work, my mission, my vision for the world is a world without judgment, where each and every one of us has access to the same opportunity as everyone else. Now, for me as a woman, I've had to go out and buy sanitary products my whole life. I've had to, people think that they're cheap. They're not. It's like a constant expense. And when you have no money, it then becomes, do I eat or do I have something that, to manage my periods? And when you have multiple children, multiple girls, the costs rack up. Now here in the Western world, and if you're lucky enough to live in Scotland, you currently get your sanitary products for free. But if you live in other parts of the world, like Sri Lanka, where they've just increased the tax on sanitary products, or anywhere in the developing world, sanitary products is a huge cost. And for most families, it's a decision not only of do I eat, it's a do I send this girl to school? And what happens, and I was shocked when I read this through Amnesty International and Plan International and a lot of other websites, this is totally true. There is a decision that families make whether or not they send their daughter to school or buy sanitary products for them. And in some cases, very young girls are removed from education altogether and are sent away from their families into arranged marriages. Now, that is entirely a different discussion, and that is, it's something that I don't want to weigh in on. What I would like to weigh in on is the availability of sustainable sanitary products. So you can go to any supermarket and you can pull off the shelf, one-time use sanitary products. So you use them for your 8 hours or however long you use them for, you wrap them up, you put them in the bin. That's it, it's gone, it's used. Reusable sanitary ware is something that you can make in your own home. And in fact, I know a lot of people who do make their own sanitary products for girls in their school and in their neighborhood. And it is my vision, my greatest wish in the world, to actually help Africa is a continent, not just specifically to a country. And I want to be able to help supply and educate schools with sewing machines and devices, with training so that they can make their own sanitary products that they can then sell to help girls keep in education. And with all the will and the love in the world, I have a vision that within my lifetime, there will be equal numbers of girls and boys in school that start and finish, all by using reusable, cost-effective sanitary products. That is my vision.
That's a beautiful vision, and it's really amazing, really. And I love it because you're going to help so many people who can't afford it and cannot really, find other ways of helping themselves. It's so sad to see a child, especially a girl, go walking on down the streets, and you see her bleeding. That's not the way, you know what I mean, for anyone's growth. Come on, not just even about your confidence and things like that. But you want to actually go to these countries and you want to teach by actually showing them on how they do it and what they, the benefits, and teaching them and everything. Vicky, wow, this is amazing project that you are doing. Where are you in a way that, are you looking into sooner, or is it going to be next year? When is it going to be starting the project, and what is the first thing you are looking to begin with?
I'm looking to start this as soon as possible. It's been something that's been on my roadmap and on my vision for a while. And I was going to start traveling Africa during 2020, but, COVID had a bit of an impact on that. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm building my network of people in and around Africa, either business owners who are able to support with venture development. I'm going to start reaching out to schools to see whether or not there's anything that can be done with students there in terms of education. And Africa's a big country, it's not a country, sorry, it's a continent. Can you tell I failed geography? It's far too big as a continent for me to do everything by myself. So I'm hoping to enroll other women, other people who have the same drive and mission as I am, who also have a love for needlework, so that we can work together and they can go out and visit countries that I can't get to. I'd like to start in sub-Saharan Africa. Ghana is a country that's been of particular interest for me for many, many years. And unfortunately, I just haven't had a chance to be able to get out there.
Do you have like a map, or, which areas or where do you really want to go that you're looking into? have you, think of like, for me, for example, I want to the whole world, okay? I want to go to every place in the world to help as many people as I can. And so I have like my map, kind of like, oh, I've been there. Yeah, I'm going there. Next is going to be. So have you done like thinking ahead to know, like, I would love to cover maybe, the 5 countries or 50 countries. What's in your mind at the moment?
Well, what's in my mind at the moment is that the country itself needs to it needs to be on board with the vision. There are some African countries where there are very significant right differences between men and women. And by going in there and saying, oh, I'm going to keep all the girls in schools by doing X, Y, and Z, it's not going to go down. I do have a colleague that I'm working with who is a South African gent who's got businesses around Africa. He's doing some research for me at the moment in Ghana, Kenya, Namibia, and 2 or 3 others that I've just completely forgot about. And those are the countries that I would probably initially look to work in with my program. And then it would be servicing the local area, local countries, and then I just naturally kind of keep pushing, keep expanding. It will be wonderful to train as many young women, young leaders up in, using a sewing machine as possible, because needlework is something that it's a skill that so many people in the Western world don't have, and it could be a good industry for them when they finish their education.
Well, this platform, it's opening the routes for you and for ensuring that people will support. Because the thing about I love this project is that it's self-funding, because you want to sell these pads and this way for people to actually get it anywhere in the world, and to ensure that money comes in for them to be able to help that person who's poor out there. So I love that. I really love it. And I am so excited for you. Okay. And I can't wait. So my last question today is that I would love to have you back so we can hear the process of this, what's happening and everything else, because you're not just tackling the pads, but also the education part. And that is the most important thing, that a lot of women especially don't finish their school, especially in Africa. That's where the problem is. We need to tackle that as well. So I am so happy and pleased to have you really to share with us this knowledge and understanding. So the main question here is that you're just one person, Vicky. And would you like to have a team, people to support you? And what kind of team or what kind of person you're looking for? Maybe joint venture, whatever it is that you're looking for. I'm not going to put my words into your mouth, but I just want to know, what are you looking for people to actually say, oh my God, I love what this woman is thinking about. I want to get in touch with her. So what kind of people are you looking for to be able to come with you, either supporting you or whatever you need? So can you share with us?
Yes, of course. So I'd love to build my following. So, go on my website, which is vickypoolcoaching.co.uk, hit contact and, fill out the form. Even if you're just filling out the form to say, I want to be involved with your Africa project, that's cool. What I'll do is I'll keep your details aside, and then when we're ready to roll out, I'll be in touch. The more that I speak to people on this topic, the more people that I'm finding think just like me, because this isn't a topic that's not talked about anymore. This is a topic that's real, that's talked about around the world. Menstruation is something that used to be a taboo. I remember feeling shame from my parents when I got my first period, because they got shame from their parents. This isn't something to be shameful of. This is something that we can do. And because so many women menstruate, well, I say so many women menstruate because you've got, those that are menopausal and those that are pregnant who don't, obviously. Women together all around the world are clubbing in, are sharing ideas and thoughts. And yeah, I would love to connect with people, women and men, alike, so that we can build our tribe and build our following. Because when we're ready to go and when we're able to sell our service or product, I have every faith and every confidence that people are going to buy into what this is, because there will be no money coming to me at all. This is a fully self-funding project to help African women and young girls. And for me, and that is so powerful and so important. When you have a dream, the dream doesn't belong to one person, it belongs to everybody. And my past and my personal experiences of starting my periods, it was horrific. I have the ability to help influence and change that for women all around the world, not just today, but for generations to come. And I think that's so powerful.
And that's all we want. And this is an amazing thing. So thank you so much. And I just want to say, really, I appreciate you and I love what you're doing. Keep doing it, Vicky. And I am so happy. So if you'd like to have anything to share with the audience today and to close for this evening.
Oh, thank you, Barke. I certainly won't say no to that. So thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Vicky Poole. I'm an ancestral healer and coach. And if you're passionate about making a difference, not just for you, but for your lineage as well, your generations to come, I'd love for you to follow me and register your interest on my website, vickypoolcoaching.co.uk, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, Vicky. And for everybody else, if you have a question, she will get through to you. All you have to do, get in touch with her. And for anyone out there, if you know, or if there's anyone you feel that will get more valuable with Vicky, share her information with that person. I am so happy, Vicky. Thank you for joining us. And for everybody else who's joining us, I applaud you and I'm so happy. So thank you. And until next week, everyone, I wish you all the best. And I hope you enjoyed the mindful session. My name is Barke Faraj Kamuss. Thank you.
You are watching AMAZE TV.